A lot of rappers still, it seems like, want to be Tupac. They want to have his popularity. They want people to love them like everyone loves him. But why do you think no one's succeeding?
Well, because this is what they fail to realize about Tupac. In order for them to be Tupac, they would have to die before they peaked. Right before they peaked, they would have to die. So if you don't die, you can't do it. Bottom line, if you don't go die, you're not gonna be the next Tupac, because it ain't gonna be the next Tupac. Straight up.
Hello, my name is Cathy Scott. I am an author and news reporter, and the author of The Killing of Tupac Shakur and The Murder of Biggie Smalls, both bestsellers. And I am here today rocking it with Gab at Makaveli Media.
Say you reached out to death row. You remember who you talked to and what was the process, and ultimately what information were you able to obtain from reaching out to death row?
I was just trying to get a feel for what their, what they were doing there, and I knew that obviously Suge Knight was his record producer and Tupac's, and so I was just trying to get a feel for what they were about. It was just someone who answered the phone. Suge was in Las Vegas at that point, because he had a house there. And that's where they all were driving from. They changed their clothes after they left the MGM Grand and went to Suge. Well, Tupac went to his hotel. Everybody else went to Suge's, and then they all met up and then drove, in their separate cars. And Tupac rode with Suge to head down to Club 662 where Tupac was performing. But they, I didn't get anything from death row other than, they didn't have any, it wasn't really a conversation. They just weren't, they probably didn't know anything anyway, but I would, it's just what we do. You make the rounds on different things. Mostly, I was talking to the detectives and the sergeant, trying to get, because he was open with me. So I was trying to get the latest, plus, with the hospital. And when I heard from, I think it was probably the sergeant in charge of the homicide unit covering his case, that I should get down to the hospital that last day because Tupac wasn't doing well. And so I did, and that's where I was. I was there at the hospital when he died.
What was that day like? Can you describe the atmosphere around the hospital? Was it still, hundreds of people trying to get access to information about Tupac's health status? And did you have any interaction with Tupac's family during?
No, his family, they were all inside, and they wouldn't let reporters pass through the doors, so we were just out front. There was a photo of Suge Knight walking past me, and I'm in the background. There was video of it, and people have done stills of it, but he just went, turned around, came back. You could tell by the look on his face and his the entourage who was behind him, that everybody just, deadpan looks on their faces. And I was there waiting to, I did, of course, go to the door and talk to, I think it was a deputy, and they have security there at the hospital. That's just standard for the trauma unit. There's a security desk before you can go into the hallway where the rooms are on either side in the trauma unit. And it was just somber. It was just, it was almost like no one was talking to each other. And at one point, one of Tupac's backup singers, the Outlawz, right? One of them, he was real young, like 18, and he came outside and went out to the curb, and the curb was sort of right there, and I wasn't too far away, and he just collapsed on the curb and was crying. And another guy put his arm on his back, and that's when I knew he was gone. You know, so the family, Afeni knew because she, you know, Tupac's mother, because she was the one who they kept resuscitating him several times, and the last time she said, you know, they couldn't. His chest, he had a terrible chest wound, you know, internal chest wound, and they couldn't, it kept ripping inside. They couldn't stop the bleeding, and that was what did it. And they kept going, and they went into surgery a couple of times, and I think it was the third time they were going to resuscitate him. And Afeni said, just let him go, let him go. And so she knew, and then, because she helped make that decision, and then some of the people they're playing his music in their cars, and there was just a somberness that was different from the other days. It was just sad.